Hello friends, welcome to video lecture on operating systems. This is part 1 of unit 3, chapter 9 memory management. This is Satish Pandian, assistant professor, department of CSE, Government College of Engineering, Body Naikanur. So first we will see the introduction topic. So we will define what is memory. A memory consists of large array of bytes or words, each with its own address. Okay, so this is a memory. Memory here, main memory. It is divided into array of either bytes or words. So each one has its own address. Okay, so here A indicate address. Okay. So next we see the side topics under introduction. The first one is address binding. So for any program, what we write, which is called a source program, so whose addresses are symbolic address. Okay. So this is a first point. So the addresses of a source program are symbolic addresses. So after creating the source program, normally we will compile the program using compiler. So this will convert the symbolic addresses into relocatable addresses. Okay. So this is a intermediate one. This is second conversion. Next we will use either linkage editor or a loader that will convert the relocatable addresses into absolute addresses. Okay. So first we have symbolic addresses, then after compilation we will get relocatable addresses. After loading we will get absolute address. Absolute address means address of main memory. So this mapping or conversion is called address binding. Okay. So that is indicated in the diagram. So what we created is a source program. After compilation, we are getting an object module. So that time is compile time. And then other object modules we can link with our program using linkage editor. Then we will get a load module. So load module can be loaded into main memory with the help of a loader. While loading, if we need any system library, that also can be loaded. And then during execution, this time is a load time. Okay, that is linkage editor and a loader time. Finally, during execution, if we need any library, we can load it in the main memory. That is execution time. Okay. And then here two definitions, logical and physical address. So this diagram we can understand both. So CPU generates logical address. The address generated by the CPU is called a logical address. The address unit what we seen in main memory, which is called a physical address. Physical address means address of main memory. So to convert this logical address into main memory, physical address, we need to use a memory management unit. So this memory management unit contain a register called a relocation register, which is also called a base register. So the logical address value is added to the here addition added to the base register value, we will get a physical address. Okay. And then dynamic loading, it's for a better memory utilization. So dynamic indicates the runtime. So during runtime, loading the routine. Okay. So dynamic routine, a routine is not loaded until it is called. So whenever it is needed, then only it can be loaded in the main memory. Otherwise, it is not loaded. So unused routines never loaded in the memory. That is dynamic loading. So dynamic linking, like dynamic loading, linking is done during execution time. Shared library means libraries can be loaded in main memory in one location, that can be shared by any number of processes. That is shared libraries. Another definition in introduction topic is overlays. So overlay, first we will see example, then we will come to the definition of overlay. So example, here we will take 2-pass assembler. So 2-pass assembler, we have two passes, pass 1 and pass 2. What pass 1 will do, it will generate a symbol table from our source program. Pass 2 convert the symbol table into target program. So here you can see that after pass 1 only we can execute pass 2. Both cannot be executed in a parallel manner. So these are the requirements. Pass 1 we need a 70 KB, pass 2 80 KB, symbol table 20 KB memory needed, and then for other functions or routines we need a 30 KB. So totally for this 2-pass assembler program 200 KB memory needed, but only available main memory is 150 KB. So here using overlay concept we can enable this program and then execute it. So that is given here. With overlay concept, this program can be executed even if the available memory is less than the required. So required memory is 200, but available is only 150, even though we can execute this program using overlay concept. So this is a total available memory 150 memory. So symbol table 20 KB we allocated. For common routines 30 KB. We are going to use overlay. So overlay driver 10 KB. So for this 60 KB we allocated. Here balance in 150 we got 90. Okay. So we already know that pass 1 and pass 2 are not executed at the same time. So first we have to execute the pass 1. Okay. So pass 1 requires only 70, available is 90 KB. So here load the routine of pass 1, it gets executed. Once it is over, remove pass 1, then pass 2 can be loaded in this location. Because pass 2 size is 80 KB, it can be loaded into this location. So now pass 2 is loaded and it gets executed. Okay. So that is overlay concept. Now see the definition: to enable a process to be larger than the amount of memory allocated. So for a process size is larger than the amount of memory allocated, we can use overlay. So here also same thing. Process size is 200, it is greater than amount of memory allocated. So overlay we are using. What is overlay? The idea is to keep in memory only those instructions and data that are needed at any given time. So at a time, what instructions and data that should be needed in the memory, that only we have to load. We won't load entire program in the main memory. That is overlay concept. Okay. So that is the introduction topic. The next topic is swapping. So swapping is nothing but uh, exchanging the process from main memory to secondary storage. That process called swapping. Where normally we are using swapping means in round robin scheduling and priority based scheduling, we will use this swapping. So here two operations, swap out and swap in. They are also called a roll out, roll in. So here we go. So first operation is swap out. It is nothing but moving the program from main memory to secondary storage. This is a swap out. And then bringing the program from secondary storage to main memory is swap in. Okay. So it requires a backing store. Backing store is nothing but a hard disk. Okay. It is needed for a swapping operation. Okay. And then swapping time is directly proportional to amount of memory swapped. So how much, that is size of the process, how much memory we are swapping depends upon with respect to that the swap time is varies. So when we have to swap a process means it should be completely idle. So during execution we should not swap the process. When it is idle we can swap it. Okay, that is swapping. The next topic is contiguous memory allocation topic. So here the memory for a process is allocated in a continuous manner. So continuous section of memory. Okay. Suppose a P is a process. It needs a 500 KB of memory. Okay. So this 500 can be allocated in a continuous manner. Suppose this is a main memory. It is divided into partitions like this. Okay. So see the next point. Generally, the memory is divided into partitions. Okay. So one partition contain operating system and then others for user process. So here the starting address is 1000 means suppose if it is 1000, this process requires a 500. So here the process can be stored. Okay. So from 1000 to 1500. Okay. So totally 500 KB of memory is allocated. So which is in a continuous manner. So continuously here 500 KB of memory is allocated. That is contiguous memory allocation. So here memory protection. Memory protection means how to protect this process from operating system. Suppose here if I load another process queue, how to protect this process from another process. For that memory protection it is done with the help of two registers, limit register and relocation register. So first CPU generates a logical address. We have to compare this logical address with the limit register whether it is less than or less than. If it is less than, we can go to next step. Otherwise, interrupt is generated. So in the next step, the logical address is added to the base register or relocation register. Then we will get a physical address. So in the physical address, we can load a particular process. So this is a memory protection. Here we have another definition called a transient operating system code. So here in one partition we have operating system. So some operating system contain code and buffer space for device drivers. Some device drivers codes are available with the operating system. Suppose if the device drivers we are not going to use, then those coding is not necessary to store it in the memory. So we can remove it from the memory. Okay, because that memory can be used by some other processes. So such codes are called transient operating system code. Whenever we need those device driver codes, we can load it in the main memory. Otherwise those can be removed from the memory. Those space can be used for user processes. So such codes are called transient operating system code. Then memory allocation. Suppose if a process needs memory, how memory can be allocated for a process. Okay, so that is the topic here. So here we already know that memory can be divided into partitions 1 2 3 like that. Okay, each partition contain exactly one process. If it is 3 partition, 3 processes we can store. So degree of multi-programming is based on number of partitions. If we have many partition, we can store many programs in the main memory. And then operating system maintains a table that tells which partition is free, which partition is allocated. The free partition is called a hole. Okay, in general, set of holes of various sizes scattered throughout memory at any given time. So we have a free partition then and there in the main memory. That is a point here. Whenever a process needs memory, then it can be allocated by dynamic storage allocation method. So here we have three methods: first fit, best fit, and worst fit method. In the first fit method, if the first partition is free enough to store a particular process, there we have to store one by one we have to check. Suppose a process needs 100 KB size. Okay, first we have to check the first partition. If it is whose size is 120, means 120 can store 100. So here we have to put, suppose the first partition is 80, second partition is 100, means second partition we have to put. Okay, so from one by one we have to check which partition is enough to store this particular process size. There it is allocated. Okay, that is a first fit method. Allocate the first free hole, that is a big enough. Best fit method, allocate the smallest hole that is big enough, which is exactly suits. Okay, suppose the first one is 60. Okay, second partition is 200, third partition size is 110. Okay, 110. Okay, so here process size is 100, which is exactly matches the third partition. Okay, because if you store here, only the waste is very less. Okay, only 10 KB is wasted. So here we will choose that. That is called a best bit fit method. Worst fit method, allocate the largest hole. Okay, so largest is here 200. So in the worst fit method, we have to allocate this process in the second partition. Okay, so these three are dynamic storage allocation methods. The next topic is fragmentation. There are two types of fragmentation: internal and external. So internal is you can explain from this diagram. Suppose if I store this process in the third partition, here third partition size is 100, process 110, process size is 100. So remaining here 10 byte is wasted. Okay, so this 10 byte is wasted, which cannot be used by any other process. That is called internal fragmentation. Okay, that is a memory which is internal to a partition. Okay, it is which is not being used. That is internal fragmentation. External means you take some other diagram. So consider here a 4 partition 1 2 3 4. Second partition already allocated, fourth partition also already allocated. So first partition is free, whose size is 20, and then third partition is free, whose size is 30. Okay, here I have a process whose size is 40. Okay, this process requires 40 KB of memory. See that first partition we cannot store, third partition also we cannot store. But overall you see the free space 20 plus 30 50. So 50 is enough to store 40, but that 50 is not in a continuous manner. Okay, that is given. 50 is not in a continuous manner, that is scattered throughout the memory. Okay, so first we have 20 free space, then we have 30 KB of free space. They are not in a continuous manner, that leads to external fragmentation. So to overcome this problem, we can go for a compaction. So here these free spaces are combined as a single large block towards one end, then we can store the particular process. Okay, so this is fragmentation. So fragmentation, memory allocation, memory protection, or comes under contiguous memory allocation topic. Okay, the next topic is paging. Paging is a non-contiguous memory allocation technique. So non-contiguous means a memory cannot be allocated in a continuous manner. So here we have a process whose logical address base is divided into number of pages, page 1, page 2, page 3, like that. So that is given here. Logical memory of a process divided into blocks of same size called pages. So process is divided into number of pages, and then main memory as usual is divided into here number of frames. Okay, like this. Okay, so that is given here. Physical memory is divided into fixed size blocks called frames. So main memory is divided into frames. A logical address space of a process is divided into pages. So whenever I want to execute this page, this process, it contains 3 pages. So all the 3 should be loaded in the main memory, and then we can execute this process. That's the last point. Okay, so here see this diagram. This is a paging, how it is done. So CPU generates address which is normally logical address. Here in paging it contains 2 parts, page number and offset or displacement. So first we have to take the page number and refer the page table. Okay, in the page table we can get a frame number. So take the frame number here and then add the offset or displacement along with the frame number. So with the F and D we will get a physical address. Now in that physical address we can store a particular page. Okay, then this page can be executed. Okay, so this is a paging, that's only given here. This is an example of paging. So this is a logical memory of a particular process which is divided into 4 pages. Totally here we have 4 pages, page 0, 1, 2, 3. This is a page table for this particular process. This page table also contain 4 entries, 0, 1, 2, 3. So here main memory, those pages are there. So page 0 in frame number 1. So page 0, the frame number is 1. Similarly page 1 is in frame number 4. So which is given here, frame number 4. Okay, this is another diagram with the free frame list. So this is before allocation, this is after allocation. So we have a process, it contains totally 4 pages. Okay, we need to execute. To execute, what we have to do, it should be loaded, all the 4 pages to be loaded in the main memory. So in the main memory these are free frames, 13, 14, 15, 18, 20. So they are called free frames. In these locations we have to load these 4 pages. Okay, so these free frames are available in free frame list. Okay, so now we have to load one by one. First take page 0. So page 0 can be loaded in the first free frame, 14. So in the 14th frame page 0 is loaded. Similarly page table we have to create and update. So this is for page 0, it is loaded in frame number 14. Similarly for the second page, page 1, next free frame we have to take. Next free frame is 13. So in the 13th frame we are loading page 1. Similarly here we have to update. Page 1 is loaded in the 13th frame. And then next page 2. So page 2 is 18. Page 3 is 20. So like that. So page 2 is 18. Page 3 is 20. Like that we have to update the page table, 18, 20, like that. Okay. So 4 frames here we used. 15 is free. So here we go. Only 15 is now free. Other 4 frames we used for this particular process. Okay. And then hardware support for paging. So to implement a page table, very simple method is register, but drawback is we have only limited number of registers. We cannot have much number of entries in page table. So another method is the entire page table we can store it in a memory under register, that is called a page table base register, that points to the starting address of page table. But here the drawback is each time memory access is needed. So this is also not efficient. So we are going for another method which is a special small fast accessible hardware cache, which is called a TLB, translation look aside buffer. So here we got TLB. It contains two columns. One is a page number, another one is a frame number. So here CPU generates a logical address which contain a page number and offset. First we have to take the page number and refer the each entry of TLB where this page is available. Suppose here if the page is available, the corresponding frame number is taken here. Okay. And then this offset is added with the frame number, we will get a physical address. So that operation is called a TLB hit. So TLB hit is nothing but the page is identified in the TLB, that is called TLB hit. Suppose in any of the rows the particular page is not available, then we are going down and referring the page table. So that operation is called TLB miss. TLB misses the page is not in the TLB, then we are coming for page table for referring the frame number. So here frame number is there, take the frame number and then add with offset, we will get a physical address. So this is with the TLB. Okay. And then protection. So we can give protection using two techniques. One is using various access rights like read only access right, read write access right, or execute only access right. We can give protection. Another one is in the page table we can add an extra bit called a valid or invalid bit. So like this page table, normally one column is there, we can add an extra column which is called a valid or invalid bit. If it is valid, it is in the main memory. Okay. If it is not invalid, means it is not in the main memory, maybe in the second storage. Okay. And then shared pages can be shared by many processes. So if you see the example, you can understand. So here three processes are there: P1, P2, P3. Okay. So P1, see that three editing process, editing pages, ED1, ED2, ED3. Here also we have same. Here also we have same. So all the three processes uses first three pages are common. So they can be loaded in single location. ED1 stored in frame number 3. So here we have a page table entry frame number 3. Here also frame number 3. Here also frame number 3. Similarly, ED2 stored in frame number 4. Okay, ED3 is stored in frame number 6. So here we see that frame number 4 and 6. Here also 4 and 6. Here also 4 and 6. Okay, so all the three processes can share this ED1, ED2, ED3 from the frame numbers 3, 4, 6. So which is sharing of pages. Okay, so with that paging is over. The next topic is segmentation. It is like paging, which is also a non-contiguous memory allocation technique, but the main difference is it supports a user view of memory. Okay. So here if we have a process, this a process means whose logical address space is divided into number of segments. Okay, here S1, S2, like that in terms of segments. So here we go. Process logical address space is divided into number of segments. This first segment, second segment, third segment, like that. So you see the segment size which is different, no? So that is a user view of memory. Segmentation supports users view of memory. Okay. So hardware support, CPU generates a logical address LA. So here which contain segment number and offset. S is a segment number, D is a offset. So using segment number, first we have to refer segment table, go to the corresponding entry. So there we have limit and base register value. First take the limit register value and then compare it with the offset. So D should be less than limit register value. If yes, then offset is added with the base, we will get a physical address. So this is a segmentation concept. Okay. So that's only given here. This is example for segmentation. So we have 5 segments: segment 0, segment 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a segment table. We have 5 entries. Suppose you take segment 0, this is segment 0. So limit is nothing but size of the segment. So this segment size is 1000 KB. Whose starting address is 1400. So from 1400 to 2400 segment 0 is stored. Similarly, if you see segment 1, this is segment 1, whose size is 400, whose starting address is 6.3. So 6.3 to 6.7 segment 1 is stored. Okay, like that segments can be stored in main memory and gets executed. So like paging, here also we can give protection by giving various access rights like read only, read write and execute only. Some segments can be shared by more than one processes. Okay, so that is called a sharing. Here we have example. So this is a logical memory of process P1. This is a P2. Here you see that segment 0 is editor segment. Here also segment 0 is editor segment. So both process uses same segment. So they can be stored in only one location. Here it is stored. Whose starting address is this? This is ending address. So here base address is starting address. So in both segment table, the entries are same. Okay. So two process can share this particular location for this particular segment, editor segment. Okay. And then fragmentation. So the drawback of paging is internal fragmentation that is eliminated in segmentation. But in segmentation, the problem is external fragmentation. So external fragmentation already we know that it can be solved or eliminated by memory compaction method. Okay. This is the last topic of this chapter, segmentation with paging. So which is used in Intel 386 family. So here maximum number of segment per process 16 KB. Each segment of the size as large as 4 GB, and then the size of the page is 4 KB. Okay. Suppose this is a process. Okay. Whose segments are divided into two partitions. Okay. So like this, two partition. One is the segments which are private to the particular process. Okay, private means which is not shared. Another one is the segments which is public to the particular process. Okay, so these segments are private to this particular process. These segments are public to the these particular process. Public means which can be shared by other processes. Okay. So the private segments are available in a table called a local descriptor table. Public partitions are stored in a table called a global descriptor table. Okay. So here the CPU generates logical address as usual, which contain two things, selector and offset. In the diagram it is there. Logical address we have selector and offset. So in the selector we have three components or three parts, SGP. S is nothing but a name of the segment number. G indicate whether the segment is in local descriptor table or global descriptor table. P is used for protection. Okay, and then if you use the segment number, go to the descriptor table here. In the corresponding entry here we have limit and base value. With that, if you add offset, we are getting this address. So this address is called a linear address. Okay, so that's given. With the limit and the base values of segment, we can generate linear address. It contains three parts, P1, P2, D. So P1 refers to page directory, P2 refers to page table, and then D is offset. Okay, that is given. So P1 is a page directory. So using this page directory we are referring, from that we are going to corresponding page table, and then this is P2 page table entry. Go to the corresponding row of the page table. Here we can get the frame number that can be added with